Today, we're looking at a green ink from Waterman Harmonious Green. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around to the part you're most interested in. Or, if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You could also follow me on Instagram, and if you like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I inked up this Duke 209 with a Fude nib. I wrote with it for a day, I then used it to take the notes for this video. This first writing sample is done with a standard set of paper, Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now, there are additional writing samples that will occur later. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial that looks something like this. And to keep my writing sample consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. Oh, as a note, this is the matching one to last week, where it was inspired blue that I had to cross out because I wrote Harmonious Green. So we'll look at the stub for its writing, but it's Harmonious Green. The 1.1 has no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. Medium is significantly darker than the extra fine or the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get any. Tomoe River, no bleeding. Now the medium gives us normal Tomoe River ghosting. The extra fine is such a light tone that you get none. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 9 seconds to dry. Medium, significantly darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 13 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get any. And Rhodia, no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 7 seconds to dry. Medium, significantly darker than everything on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we got none. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see a very, very, very light minty green pushing its way up. But at the top, we see this very bright blue. So this ink should be able to provide more shading than it is, just looking at its chromatography. Now the one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And we do see a little bit more of a line across the bottom, although I don't think it's going to be resistant. But that light blue that was at the top is a little more noticeable here. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, that capital H in the I has a lot of blowout. It means I wouldn't want to use this in a note-taking, besides the fact that it's so light, but I could really lose what I've written. Now water is reactivating and lifting this off the page. We do see some of the white of the paper start coming through, so given more than 30 seconds, this will get it out of your pen. Pen flush does everything that water does and nothing more, because water is all you need. 1/3 bleach solution absolutely obliterates it, but you don't need it. I test the viscosity or flow using a tilt test, which I'm going to link the video showing how I do that. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Waterman's Harmonious Green has a viscosity of 1.99, making this a wetter ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Waterman's Harmonious Green has an average dry time of 13 seconds, putting it right on the edge of normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Waterman's Harmonious Green, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. So I wanted a nice brown, and I chose Diamine's Raw Sienna. The second writing sample is done on Life, G. Lalo, and Franklin Christoph paper. Here we're looking at Life notebook papers. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. And the extra fine, same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 6 seconds to dry. Medium, significantly darker than everything on the page, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation because there is none. G. Lalo. It's like a really darker gray paper. No bleeding or ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. You can barely see it on camera. The extra fine is actually just a tad lighter than the stub, still barely seeable on camera, not incredibly seeable in person. No feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. Medium becomes an absolutely readable tone, nice and dark. No feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 6 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, and there is none. Last up is Franklin Christoph, with no bleeding and no ghosting. That 1.1, very light tone, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. It's probably why you don't hear a lot about this ink. It's just so light in so many pens. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. Medium, significantly darker. No feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 3 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show us no color variation because there is no color variation, and that is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Waterman's Harmonious Green? It always gives a kind of flat, dull tone, and there's a great deal of color variation you can get depending on what pen you choose to use it in. So what nib and pen would give the best writing experience? Dry or fine pens tend to make a line that's just a little bit too light to read comfortably. So you really want to use a very wet pen, preferably a broad, to put as much ink down to make the color as easily read as possible. If you've made it this far, and according to my analytics, 50% of you aren't, and you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. If you are not subscribed, I would invite you to subscribe, and thanks for watching.